Good evening, I'm Katerina Georgieva. Here's what's making news right now.
He said, and thank you for the government of Canada, they brought us here, but he can't live all his life owing money to the bank.
These flyers to me do not promote the city. If it promoted the city, why not the 10 city councilors that make all the decisions and himself? But on both sides was Mr. Mayor at the podium looking like a politician, and to me that's blatant campaigning.
I want someone from a marginalized community who has lived experience and who has done work in this area to be the person or the persons that are engaged in this.
Thanks for joining us. We begin tonight with the ongoing struggle for affordable housing. One Windsor refugee family tells CBC's Jennifer LaGrassa how they're barely making ends meet and want to see political leaders and organizations step up to help.
By the time Mohammed Al-Shami and his family get affordable housing in Windsor, his youngest son could be about 30 years old.
It's too hard, and I am sad, and I am mentally tired thinking all about this stuff. Like, it's too hard. Like, we can't buy even good foods, you know? Like, it's too expensive. We are coming here to live better life, not paying bills, insurance. It's too much here.
Al-Shami, his wife, and their 9 children moved to Windsor in 2018. They had previously fled war in Syria. Al-Shami has several medical conditions that leave him unable to work. He pays $1,750 a month to rent a home in Windsor. That consumes nearly half of his monthly income, which comes from ODSP and the child tax benefit. The family applied for affordable housing in 2019, but say they were told it could take more than 20 years, as they're one of 6,300 households in Windsor, Essex, waiting for affordable housing. The city could not confirm how long it would take for those on the wait list. Despite being a refugee and on disability, Al-Shami isn't considered a priority. Those first in line are people experiencing domestic violence, human trafficking, or homelessness.
Individual circumstances are different. And it's very difficult to prioritize certain populations over others when the need is so great. And that's the issue that we have. Ideally, if you come and you need housing, you would get it when you needed it. And unfortunately, that's not how the system works.
This year, more affordable housing units will become available, and the city says there are also benefit programs people can consider to reduce rent costs. Some local MPPs say the province could look into prioritizing affordable housing for marginalized groups, but in the meantime, there are other measures that can be put in place.
Rent control. So what we've seen is the Ford government had rolled back rent control to exclude some units. We want to see rent control across the board. Something else that the province needs to do immediately is a substantial increase to Ontario Works and Ontario Disability Support Program.
Adding supply is the way we're going to address this housing shortage that we've got.
As for Al-Shami, he's urging the government to do more to help people like him.
They are giving us support, but it's not enough.
Jennifer LaGrassa, CBC News, Windsor.
A Windsor resident hopes to force the mayor to compensate taxpayers for a contentious flyer. We told you last week about complaints over the flyer inserted into the city tax bill envelopes, and it highlighted the accomplishments of Mayor Drew Dilkens. The city footed the bill for the flyer. Now, a petition calling on Dilkens to repay the costs is racking up signatures. Dale Molnar reports.
This is the insert that caused so much controversy, a flyer paid for by the taxpayer that some say looks very much like campaign advertising for the mayor. The mayor says it's just information going out to the public like any other time, but this time only 4 months before the election. Timothy Bondi saw it in his tax bill envelope and was shocked.
And I gasped and I said, this can't be right or legal. Turns out after, the story is developed that it seems like there's no specific laws broken here, but I don't think it's fair that he could take this huge advantage and levy that while he's outside of the campaign period, but so close to the campaign period.
So Bondi started an online petition to ask the mayor to pay for the cost of the insert and mailing.
We put in the petition about $20,000 was the estimation to do this outside by itself. And so we want to see that money refunded to taxpayers, or at the very least taken out from what is allowed in his campaign if he does choose to run for mayor.
So far, nearly 400 people have signed the petition. A spokesperson for the city confirms the cost of printing the insert was just over $1,883. When asked about this issue last week, Drew Dukins had this to say.
Well, we don't have our communications cleared by the Integrity Commission. That's not the process we use. But if someone thinks that I violated the Code of Conduct, they're welcome to file a complaint with the Integrity Commissioner.
However, 3 days later, the deadline passed for filing complaints before the election. The city's new Integrity Commissioner says complaints will be investigated after the election.
The complainant or the respondent can, after the election, say, no, we want the work to continue, in which case it's possible that we could pick up that complaint again and bring a report when we are done, assuming again that there are findings that the code has been breached.
Bondi reached out to the Integrity Commissioner today and says he will file a complaint after the election if Dukins runs and wins. Dukins has not said if he is running or not. He has until August 19th to declare. His chief of staff says he will answer questions on this tomorrow. Dale Molnar, CBC News, Windsor.
The city of Windsor has a tender out for a consultant, a firm to lead its anti-racism, anti-discrimination strategy. This comes nearly a year after controversy tanked another diversity initiative. This time, the head of the city's diversity committee says there's an issue with the search for a consultant, insisting more needs to be done to give marginalized businesses a chance at getting that contract. And our Jacob Barker is on this story and joins me now live in studio. Jacob, what's the concern here?
Well, Peter E.J. is the chair of the city's diversity committee. His concern is that the city is advertising for a consultant in all the traditional places, and he's worried that means that marginalized businesses won't even see the posting. The document is looking for a consultant or a consultancy firm that can find ways to incorporate equity, diversity, and inclusion into the way that the city delivers its services. And right now, the tender is advertised on Bidingo. That's a site which governments frequently use to solicit contractors for all sorts of work. But Peter E.J. says that's not good enough.
My concern is who receives the document and who has access to bidding on it. Because if we're talking about anti-racism, we're talking about systemic racism within a system and a structure, I would consider those people with lived experiences to be the ones that have never been included. And they're not the ones who are going to have these institutes that work on this, who are going to be checking on this on Bidingo every week to see what's up there and what's not up there. So we're going to be further marginalized.
This isn't the city's first time to approach, that their approach to equity has come under fire. Last year, the Multicultural Council of Windsor and Essex County backed out of leading an anti-racism strategy. That was after complaints from the Black Council and the city's diversity committee, which at the time was also led by EJ, that the Multicultural Council wasn't equipped to lead the strategy because it didn't understand anti-racism. That brings us to today. EJ has no issue with the current tender. He just wants it more widely advertised.
Jacob, what does the city have to say about all this?
Well, a spokesperson did respond to our questions with a written statement. He says the city believes its outreach has been appropriate, but added that the RFP is still open and can be extended if the committee now feels that more avenues of outreach would be desirable. According to EJ, that posting, which was initially slated to close late last month, has been extended until at least the 11th of July. The city says its diversity and accessibility officer will reach out to EJ directly to discuss the matter.
Thanks for that, Jacob. CBC's Jacob Barker live in studio with us tonight. The City of Toronto is ordering contractors to rehire and accommodate sick security guards who lost their jobs over a rule requiring them to be clean-shaven so they can wear N95 masks. This comes after the World Sikh Organization of Canada filed a complaint against the city, which works with those contractors. Dale Manuktuk has the story.
For me, if you ask me to clean shave my beard, it's like peeling off my skin kind of thing. Birkawal Singh Anand says he was recently laid off by ASP Security. Last month, the City of Toronto issued a directive around the use of N95 masks in its shelter system.
There are people in our shelter system who may have underlying medical conditions, and so we have an obligation to protect them, but also to protect our workers, or in this case, contractors.
Anyone working in close proximity to vulnerable persons in congregate settings has to wear an N95. The policy says that staff, including contractors, must be clean-shaven to fit properly into the mask and ensure its effectiveness. Anand was informed by his employer about the directive.
Ultimately, they said that this is something which is not coming from them. This is something coming from the City of Toronto, and you need to follow that. If not, then you will be laid off. So within 2-3 days, I was laid off.
The City of Toronto says it abides by all human rights legislation, and all contractors must also abide by the city's human rights and anti-harassment discrimination policy. The World Sick Organization says the city is just passing the buck.
And when these contractors get the accommodation request, they just say, well, we don't have any other work, so we're laying you off. Sorry, out of luck. This is the worst response I've seen from the City of Toronto.
But the city issued a news release after CBC inquired about the layoffs, stating the city itself has granted 7 accommodation requests to its own employees who have sought religious exemptions in shelter settings, and fully expects such accommodations, if requested by contract employees, to also be granted by contractors to those employees. It goes on to say it's directed contractors to reinstate all employees and will be looking at its legal options up to and including terminating the contracts of any contractors found to be in violation of city policy or human rights legislation. Dale Manukduk, CBC News, Toronto.
A new survey of healthcare workers by the Canadian Union of Public Employees points to an alarming amount of physical and sexual violence experienced on the job. One worker we heard from today recounted multiple incidents of violence at his workplace. Lorenda Redekop has the story.
Dave Virch worked for 33 years as a registered practical nurse in Ottawa at this continuing care facility for seniors and others with chronic illness.
Violence definitely is part of the job, unfortunately. I've been punched, I've been kicked, I've been scratched. I've had things thrown at me. Unfortunately, sometimes it was urine or worse. And yeah, it happens in the workplace.
Now he works with his union, the Ontario Council of Hospital Workers, part of CUPE.
Every day, hundreds of healthcare workers are hit, sexually assaulted, racially attacked, and verbally harassed in Ontario hospitals.
The union represents 50,000 hospital staff, including RPNs, cleaners, and clerical workers, mostly women. Of the 2,300 members surveyed, 63% said they experienced physical violence from patients or family members. 14% said daily. 78% said they experienced non-physical violence, such as name-calling, insults, threats, or threatening gestures. 25% said daily. Plus, 49% said they experienced sexual harassment. 36% said they experienced sexual assault, such as groping or inappropriate touching. Virch believes women have it worse than he did.
I'm a big guy. I think maybe patients are family.
Of the respondents who identify as racialized, 71% say the abuse or harassment they receive is connected to their race or ethnicity.
We are here to demand that the management of these hospitals, the Premier, and the new Health Minister not look the other way, not to be silent.
Hospitals do have workplace violence prevention policies. The Ontario Hospital Association says it takes its obligations seriously to ensure workplaces are free from violence, and that it will continue to take steps to make that happen. The union also wants protection for people who speak up. He hopes others will come forward. Lorenda Redekop, CBC News, Toronto.
And an update now on yesterday's mass shooting in the U.S. We're learning that the man suspected of killing 7 people at a 4th of July parade in a Chicago suburb had planned the attack for weeks. Police believe Robert Cremo fired more than 70 rounds with a high-powered rifle from the top of a commercial building and did so while in disguise.
During the attack, Cremo was dressed in women's clothing, and investigators do believe he did this to conceal his facial tattoos and his identity and help him during the escape with the other people who were fleeing the chaos.
Along with those killed, about 30 people were injured in the shooting in Highland Park. Police have interrogated Cremo but have not laid charges. They haven't determined a motive for the crime. There's been plenty of talk about a housing bubble in Canada throughout the pandemic, but during COVID, purchases of RVs also saw a surge. Now, those owners are driving head-on into the accelerating price of fuel, and that's triggered speculation about a possible mobile home bubble. CBC's Aaron Collins explains.
It's a sure sign that summer has arrived. RV owners getting ready to hit the open road. This home on wheels has been to pretty much every corner of Canada.
We figured that we've got about 400 square feet in here.
But high gas prices will keep trips in this rolling condo closer to home this summer.
This year they're quite scaled back, and mainly because of the cost. We're thinking twice about taking trips. It's not stopping us, but we're definitely thinking twice about what we're going to do.
Well, that could signal a shift from recent years when a record number of RVs hit the road. 600,000 motorhomes and trailers were built in North America last year alone.
What we've seen over the past couple years is that the pandemic has supercharged that long-term growth.
It's been busy at this RV lot just outside Calgary throughout the pandemic. Everything from vans to luxury motorhomes have been hard to keep in stock.
This one's got the television TV there that's with the fireplace entertainment.
I love it. But sales have begun to slow a bit this year. Some buyers reacting to higher gas prices. Still shopping, but looking for a smaller, cheaper RV.
People are being a little bit more fuel conscious, and I think the industry has been going that way for a long time with lighter materials and a little bit of stuff that's easier to tow.
And it's not just fuel prices that could have new RV buyers thinking twice down the road, creating worries about an RV bubble ready to burst.
Rising inflation, rising gas prices, rising borrowing costs. So all of these factors will be things that consumers will take into consideration.
And with so many RVs now on the road, if demand were to collapse, it could mean a bumpy ride for anyone looking to ditch their RV for good. Aaron Collins, CBC News, Calgary.
This border city got a mention on the game show Jeopardy. If you answered, "What is Windsor?" you're correct. Here's how Jeopardy contestants reacted to the question.
A busy border crossing between the U.S. and Canada is the tunnel linking Detroit with this city in Ontario. Eleanor. What is Toronto? No. That city is Windsor.
And now the people will know. A live look outside there. The heat persisting today with daytime highs near 31 degrees. There should be a cold front coming tonight, though. We've got your weather right after the break. Stay with us. Victoria Then Alvarado joins us now for a look at our weather forecast. Victoria, we had a bit of rain earlier and a lot of heat now.
Yeah, the heat's going to start building, and actually the rain that we saw was quite needed. Do you notice your grass and your lawn is getting a little burnt out? Well, the rain was really useful for that because the month of June, we really were below our seasonal average for our rainfall totals. We only saw about 69.3 millimeters in the month of June in the Windsor area. So the rain that's going to be coming in the next couple of days, I just gave it away. Wednesday night, you're going to be seeing some rain, but first let's talk about some fire danger. On Monday, we did have an extreme fire danger through Windsor, Chatham, and all the way through Port Stanley and Sarnia. Now, with that being said, it's always good to check your local forecast and also check ontario.ca for some fire danger warnings if you are planning a camping trip, because in the next couple of days, our humidity is going to start to rise, and even for the next week. Before the rain, or after the rain comes rather. So for your Wednesday, 27 degrees in Windsor, London 26, but with the Humidex, 33 is what it's going to feel like on your Wednesday. Now this is where the rain starts to creep in. It's going to approach for your Thursday, so it's going to be slow moving in through the Windsor area. London, it's going to just dodge the GTA, but more widespread rainfall. Nothing heavy in nature though, so don't be alarmed. No thunderstorm activity just yet. For your Thursday, temperatures start to climb, 29 degrees, but with that Humidex, check it out, feeling more like 36. Friday, even more build there, feeling 30 degrees is the actual temperature, but it's actually going to feel more like 35. So with that, we take a look at our Humidex values and the danger with that. Really, if you're in the 20 to 29 range, little to no discomfort. But if you start getting up to the 30s to 39 range, you start feeling that discomfort, especially for those with respiratory illnesses as well. So just take note. Also, your car is going to start getting hot on the inside. You notice that? So just take note that it's better always to park in the shade because you're going to burn yourself on your seats with this warm temperature coming up, especially for your weekend, getting super hot until another round of storms on Tuesday. That's later in the week, though.
Definitely another classic Windsor week forecast. Thanks for that, Victoria.
Thank you.
And when we come back, we know about jogging and we know about juggling, but have you ever heard of joggling? That's right after the break. Welcome back. What do you get when you combine jogging and juggling? Well, it's joggling, of course. A man in Prince Edward Island is good at it, and he hopes to break a world record this month.
So juggling is the combined sport of running and the activity of juggling. So when you combine running while juggling, that's what we call juggling with an O instead of a U. I started in 2014, so I started running and juggling around my neighborhood for a couple weeks until I got really hooked into it, and I decided to enter into a race. And from that one race, I got even more hooked, and then 9 years later, I have one Guinness World Record to my name, and I'm about to get a second, hopefully. So I have a Guinness World Record for the half marathon running while juggling. That was in 2018 in Toronto. I decided to just do something for fun, something for my mental health, and I started juggling. It's not as easy as just running. Obviously, you need the endurance, so the running technique, and then you also need a technique of juggling, because from the first time I tried to juggle and run, it took me 3 months until I did my first race. My first race, I came 4th overall while juggling. And then this is when I realized, I'm like, maybe I can go somewhere with this. The community sees a person running while juggling, they stop. They pay attention, and then they want to know why. When you run and juggle during a race, you can stop and do a little act.
That's awesome. See how much one-hand famous.
I'll just go in the center right here.
All right. Ooh. Oh, wow. Look at that.
I'm going to be running a 10 kilometer while juggling.
I can't imagine.
It gets people to approach you. You're more approachable. You're the fun guy. So the world record attempt I'm going to go for is the 10 kilometer. I'm teaming up with the UPI, the cross-country team. So they're letting me use the track. So we're going to be doing a 10,000 meter on track. And the goal is to break 36 minutes and 27 seconds. If people can see that running can be more than just an exercise, it can be a form of entertainment on the road, it might get more people to try. Guinness World Record, here I come.
I mean, that is a great party trick. That is it for CBC Windsor News. For news anytime, go to our website, cbc.ca/Windsor. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.